On another busy day of NFL news, the Broncos coaching staff is amongst one of the most popular choices when it comes to poaching and grabbing guys from our staff. It's kudos to Sean Payton and what he's been able to do in these 2 years, heading into year 3 in Denver. We're going to break down what it means. And is there a potential coach that is currently on in the organization that is on the hot seat? I think the answer is absolutely 100% yes. So we'll get into it, guys. If you love Denver sports, if you love Broncos news, hit that subscribe button, like the videos. Got a lot of great NFL draft content coming too, so keep an eye out on that. It's got some film reviews that you can check out, and a lot more of that to come, some mock drafts, and all that really, really good stuff. So stay tuned for that. Appreciate it in advance. All right, guys, so we all know this, right? So according to Mike Kliss, this came out hot off the press, right? Johnny Morton and Declan Doyle. So Johnny Morton was he was like an offensive assistant kind of pass game coordinator for us. Very, very highly regarded in the NFL. Sean Payton really loved him, got him from Detroit once he came over. And now he's leaving to go back to Detroit to be the offensive coordinator, replacing Ben Johnson. Declan Doyle, our tight ends coach, young dude, 28 years old, has gone over to where is he going? Declan Doyle. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. He's going over to Detroit to be their – or to Chicago. My apologies. To be their offensive coordinator there with Ben Johnson. So, you know, there's a lot of changes happening. I'm going to be interested to see who it is that we replace some of these guys with. I know that a couple other guys that got a lot of interest this cycle was Chris Banjo, our assistant special teams coach. We'll see if we end up just promoting him or bringing in Darren Rizzi once that New Orleans Saints job vacancy is no longer vacant. But the interesting news here, guys, is that the Broncos placed a priority on retaining quarterback coach David Webb, as they did on secondary coach Jim Leonard. Now, Jim Leonard already came out. He basically told other teams, "Hey, I'm going to stay here in Denver. I'm going to run it back another year, and see what Sean Payton's cooking up with." Didn't really hear too much more about Davis Webb, but he's going to be an up and comer, somebody that is absolutely going to draw a lot of interest as things go. And I really do believe that in the coming year or two, we need to consider just getting rid of Joe Lombardi, or maybe we give him a different role in the organization and we promote Davis Webb to offensive coordinator, because you don't want to miss out on an up and coming coach like that easily. Here's the thing about Jim Leonard, though. All right. And here's what's really important to understand about Jim. Taking us back to when Sean Payton was originally hired as the head coach, we all knew that his number one priority, the number one guy that he wanted, was Vic Fangio. But after a lot of discussions, and Vic Fangio just recently getting fired as the head coach here, less than 2 years ago, or basically less than a year ago, prior to that, they moved on. And then we went on and we interviewed like Matt Patricia. We interviewed Rex Ryan. We interviewed, obviously, Vance Joseph. We interviewed a lot of these guys, and ultimately we landed on Vance Joseph. But if you don't remember last year, I'm here to remind you, Sean Payton's plan B, if Vic Fangio didn't work out, which he felt like probably would not happen. So his preference of defensive coordinator from the beginning was Jim Leonard. However, Jim Leonard, that particular coaching cycle, that season in 2023 offseason, he had hip surgery from his playing days. So he wasn't really mobile, and he wasn't in a position to be a coach. He ends up taking like an executive job at, I think it was Illinois University, if I'm not mistaken, because it's something that doesn't require you to be moving around a lot. So he wanted to get Jim Leonard the whole time. He was a very, very highly regarded coach, wasn't able to get him. And then we end up getting him after, in last offseason, after Sean Payton's first year, to bring him in as a secondary coach. He was back to good health. And, we obviously had an opening there with the promotion of Christian Parker that ended up leaving. So Jim Leonard is somebody that I wouldn't be surprised if Sean Payton went up, made him a couple promises, said, this and that, you're kind of in the running to be able to be the next defensive coordinator. What does that mean for Vance Joseph? Well, I think Vance Joseph overall has done a very, very good job, right? He started off terrible here in Denver, did an incredible job flipping it around last season to really put us in any sort of contention at all. And then this last year, I think he did a really good job. Yes, we finished the season a little bit weak, but I think, when I look at it, I think a lot of it was just teams exposing the flaws that we had in our defense, and Vance Joseph could only cover them up for as long as he could. I felt like he did a really good job game planning. Everything that he did from a game plan standpoint and calls during the game, for the most part, they all made a lot of sense. So I think he's done an awesome job. And I know the sideline altercation with him and Sean Payton at the end of the Buffalo game rattled some feathers. Now, I'll tell you this. That's kind of normal stuff. I don't want to look too much into that. But I will say that Sean Payton is all about having a plan. He has a vision in place, not just with his roster, but also with his coaches. And I feel like Vance Joseph is always going to kind of be coaching with a little bit of a shorter leash with him, because any excuse or any reason that he can find to be able to get rid of him, I feel like he will, especially if he wants Jim Leonard to be in the waiting. Now, the best case scenario for Denver fans by far is that Vance Joseph has an incredible year next year. He has another top 10, maybe even a top 5 unit overall. He does great. He becomes a head coach somewhere. We promote Jim Leonard, easy peasy. We get a couple of compensatory picks, and we're off and running. I love that. But I'm never going to be a fan of, hey, Vance Joseph had 2 bad games as a coach, and now he gets fired mid-season especially. I'm all about the continuity. So really, really good news there. But in terms of some of the vacancies, we have to fill in Johnny Morton's role, right? And what we could do with that is we could essentially give a little bit more responsibility to Davis Webb, give him a little bit of a promotion, maybe have him overlook as the pass game coordinator as well as the quarterbacks coach as well. That's going to be a huge possibility in terms of filling in that role. We could bring in a couple other people. I know that there's a lot of free agent coaches now since New Orleans is basically having an entire regime change. So there might be some, low-level or mid-level assistants there that we can look at potentially bringing in. Sean Payton's also done a really good job of looking into the college ranks as well. And then special teams, I think we all know. I think not just the Broncos, but a lot of teams are waiting for that New Orleans Saints job to be filled, because Darren Rizzi is still in contention to be the coach there. And even though I don't view him, I think it's probably a pretty low chance that he ultimately gets it. They are interviewing with Kellen Moore today. There is still a chance, and he's going to wait out. Once that gets filled, if it's not Darren Rizzi that gets the head coach, I expect the Broncos to be extremely aggressive. He was always the highest paid special teams coordinator in the business. Broncos will be able to say, we can easily continue that and we'll outbid somebody if you really want him. I think it's worth it. He's one of the best special teams coordinators in the NFL. So look for that. If not, if for whatever reason we miss out on him or whatever it might be, I think Chris Banjo is ready to take the leap to be the special teams coordinator. Looking at tight ends coach is really important. It's really kind of interesting because there's a lot of options, right? A couple options that I'd brought up is, let me pull up my list that I had here yesterday. It was Dan Roushar. It's spelled Roushar. He's currently the O-line coach at Tulane, but he worked with Sean Payton in New Orleans for several years. He was the run game coordinator and the tight ends coach. A lot of success there. Super, valuable guy. And I think having him as a run game coordinator and a tight ends coach is really good. Getting a very experienced coach to come in and help better coordinate the run game, coach up the tight ends, especially, all the young guys and the free agents that we're going to most likely bring in there, I think is really good. A couple other random guys, and this is just me, doing some organic research about myself. None of these guys really have ties to Sean Payton, but I kind of try to find, collegiate coaches that maybe have some NFL experience or had a lot of success in college that might want to make that leap, because you can always poach from the college ranks very well as well. Ty Howell is somebody, he's the tight end coach for Penn State. Obviously that's me just more wishing, because I really want Tyler Warren. So it'd be cool to, bring him in and have a little bit of insights and kind of connect those dots there. There's Steve Oliver, who's the assistant O-line coach right now in Detroit. The reason he's somebody that's interesting is because you can bring him over from Detroit. Detroit has been a hell of an offense, especially from the offensive line standpoint. So the fact that he was the assistant O-line coach to, I think his name is Hank Fraley. He's one of the baddest men. Awesome dude too, in terms of coaching that O-line. Really good mentor to have. But he also did coach tight ends at the collegiate level at both Idaho and San Diego State. That's where he ultimately went to college at, I believe. So that could be really big. He's somebody that would be really intriguing. Jim Dre was a tight end coach for the Chicago Bears. There's not really any I'm not sure if they're going to retain him or if they're going to replace him, but I just kind of connected the dots because that's one of the organizations that fired all their coaches. And then there's a guy named Brian Puchi. All right, greatest name. Honestly, it's the greatest name probably in all of the NFL if we hire him in terms of coaches. Brian Puchi. Gotta love that. But he is he's an assistant offensive line coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he's got a ton of experience in college. And yeah, that's kind of what I remember from him. There was something that was also intriguing. I can't exactly remember what it was. I know he came through a couple of the NFL Alumni Academy for coaching, but he's coached a lot of different places, super well respected. To be honest with you, gotta love the guy. So because and I really just wanted to mention him because his name is Ben Puchi, because it's fantastic. Anyways, that's going to wrap up this video, but keep a lookout on some really good content that we got coming. We're going to have the mock draft. I'm going to look at Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to rate it for the entire league, but also specifically for my Denver Broncos. And then I'm also going to put another video out that should be dropping probably before this one does, depending on how I'm feeling. That's going to basically say this would be the perfect offseason for the Broncos for both free agency and for the draft. And it's what I want to see, but everything's going to have a lot of logical explanations to it. Shout out to David Talks Broncos for doing his version of that. He really inspired me to put something like that together. I loved it. I thought it was a really, really fun exercise. So I'll link his in the description below that video. All right, y'all. Appreciate it, man. Go Broncos as always. F them Chiefs, if you know what I'm talking about. But until next time, spend time with those people you love the most, and peace out.